the less likely you are to be fantastically successful at any single one of them.
Some people are just so laser focused on their career. They work 70 hours a week and they're always on the grind, and they don't have any time for any leisure activity or family or anything that's not work. And that is an incredibly hard situation to be in. Now, most of the time when you're talking about having a healthy life and enjoying life to the fullest, that is not a good example of it. Just constantly working. You need a break, and that's okay. You're going to want to spread your life out. You don't want to put all your eggs in the one basket of being a workaholic. You're going to want to head and spread it out. Go ahead and work hard, work a lot, that's fine. But you're going to need some time for some leisure activities to get your mind focused and reset. Go ahead and hang out with your pals, your buddies, your friends. Go ahead and settle down with a family if that's what you want to do, but make sure you have numerous activities to do instead of solely focusing on your work.
The less likely you are to be fantastically successful at any single one of them.
You just can't let your pride get in the way. It's okay not to be solely exceptional on one thing and be okay at a whole bunch of others. There's nothing wrong with that. You can choose to be exceptionally incredible at one object, but the rest of your life won't be as exciting, opposed to spreading it out and doing various different activities throughout your life and enjoying life and everything that it has to offer to its maximum potential.
You gather information from the world, and then you remake your plan, and you remake your conception of the world, and then you could move on. If you concentrate solely on your career, you can get a long way in your career. And I would say that that's a strategy that a minority of men preferentially do. That's all they do. They work like 70, 80 hours a week. They go flat out on their career. They're staking everything on the small probability of exceptional status in a narrow domain. But it's hard on them. They don't have a life. It's very difficult for them to have a family. They don't know how to take any leisure activity. Like, they get very one-dimensional. Now, it may be that unidimensionality is the price you have to pay to be exceptional at one thing. You know, and I would say most often, if you're speaking about having a healthy life, that isn't what you do. You spread yourself out more. So, you know, you have a family, you have some things that you do outside of work that are meaningful to you and useful. You have a network of friends. Well, those three things alone are plenty to keep you well oriented. And then if one of those things collapses, everything doesn't go. The price you pay for that is the more you strive to optimize that balance. The hippocampus looks inside your memory systems to see what it is that you want to have happen based on your understanding of the world. You're in a motivated state, but you have certain expectations that make sense within that state. So the hippocampus is watching what you think is going to happen. But remember, that's motivated, it's not just expectation. And then the hippocampus is also looking at the world. It's looking at an interpretation of the world, because you can't help but interpret the world. But fundamentally, the hippocampus is looking inside you and outside you. And then it's seeing if what's happening inside and what's happening outside are the same. You know what you're doing and you know where you are. And if they're the same, so if it detects a match, the hippocampus inhibits the amygdala, the hypothalamus, roughly speaking. Now, what it actually seems to do, there's a little circuit in your brainstem called the reticular activating circuit. And it's the thing that turns your brain on at night if you're sleeping and you hear a noise that you shouldn't hear. It's like, bang, you're awake. It's the reticular activating system way down in your brainstem, puts your cortex into a high arousal state, and poof, you're conscious. It sustains them through difficult times, and they are certain to encounter difficult times, and they're left bitter and resentful and without purpose and adrift and hostile and resentful and vengeful and arrogant and deceitful and of no use to themselves and of no use to anyone else, and no partner for a woman, and there's nothing in it that's good. You help people understand why it's necessary and important for them to grow up and adopt responsibility, why that isn't a shake your finger and get your act together sort of thing, a delineation of the kind of destiny that makes life worth living. I've been telling young men, but it's not, I wasn't specifically aiming this message at young men to begin with. What I've been telling young men is that there's an actual reason why they need to grow up, which is that they have something to offer. People have within them this capacity to set the world straight that's necessary to manifest in the world, and that also doing so is where you find the meaning that sustains you in life. What he wants, say, or she wants, they'll tell you right away. They know. It's like, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to get it. But agreeable people, especially if they're really agreeable, are so agreeable that they often don't even know what they want, because they're so accustomed to living for other people and to finding out what other people want and to trying to make them comfortable and so forth, that it's harder for them to find a sense of their own desires as they move through life. Look, there's situations where that's advantageous, but it's certainly not advantageous if you're going to try to forge yourself a career. That just doesn't work at all. And so even though on average men and women aren't that much different in terms of their levels of agreeableness by the group, if you go out and you look at the extremes, they're very different. So all of the most agreeable people are women, and all of the most disagreeable people are men. And the thing is, the extremes are often what matter rather than what's in the middle. And so one of the ways that's reflected in society, by the way, is there's way more men in prison, and the best personality predictor of being imprisoned is to be low in agreeableness. Now you might think, well, what's the opposite of compassion and politeness? And the answer to that is, I think it's best sort of conceptualized as a trading game. So let's say that we're going to play repeated trading games.